So here's your first if-else examples and setup. Now, in Scheme, an if statement by default is going to have the return of if true or if false. So in reality, it really is an if-else statement. Let's just put it that way. You're not going to see the else anywhere in these examples that I have in front of you because else is really taken care of. Meaning this. In version 1 here, here's our condition, and then here's what we would return from that function, because that's really what if is, if it happens to be true. And then the line underneath of that, even though it's calling a whole nother function, that is the portion that would happen if our condition was false. So notice it can be as simple as a variable, or it can be not as simple as calling a whole nother function if it happened to be, in this case, the condition happened to be false. So that's where things get really, really interesting with this, with the setup, and notice nothing else. By the way, in the two versions that I have for you, they're actually doing the exact same thing. The only thing that's different is that, well, frankly, version 2 is all on one line. I bring that up because spacing in Scheme is really critical, and that makes sense. You have spacing when it comes to C++ or Java, or sometimes use a comma. Scheme doesn't use that comma to break up parameters. It uses spaces. So this is going to be highlighted as your true, and then it's waiting for that space, and it knows after that space, everything else from there on down is going to be the false portion of it. Now again, notice it could be as complicated as calling another function, but it's there because of that space. And notice how things are literally tokenized in that line of version 2. So in the last part here I go over is the if-else statements within a function. You're going to start seeing me already introducing very basic functions into the code that I've given you. Now again, if you've gotten to this level, you already know what basic functions are. And frankly, I'm doing that because in reality, we're going to be doing a lot of things in Scheme and functions because it's a functional language. But I'm going to bump it up a little bit. Let's put it that way. So you're going to still see our if-else statements and conditions, whatever you want to call it, inside of some function like this one. This one's define Fibonacci. And I think you can figure out which was the parameter there of the n being passed in, and then go from there. But notice I'm going to step up our game just a little bit and pretty quickly here when it comes to the rest of the examples that you see in the rest of this playlist. So all I'm showing you here is two more examples of them also built into a function. But again, the only thing I'm really trying to emphasize here is the overall structure of it and how important the spaces are that you can see. I'm highlighting one in each one of the functions there with that blue symbol that's got a blank in there. But again, putting blanks in there is really kind of like our comma that we have when we use Java and C++. And that's all it's really trying to do. The other interesting part about this is that we can mix up our data types that we want to, well, frankly, use and respond from a selection statement. I'm going to show you more on that here in a little bit. So that's coming attractions, but at least wanted to get into a little bit of what we got here.